I don't even get why anyone likes Assassin's Creed. It's such a stupid game. I love 3 things in this world: eating mud, Daytona 500, and Assassin's Creed. While any attempts to break out of the video game genre have fallen flat on their face, it's still an extremely popular franchise with almost 20 games in the series. Since its creation in 2007, Assassin's Creed has gone through a lot of changes. Some good ones and some other ones. And through it all, I've been there, waiting in the shadows for another game to sink 100 hours into, which is why I, the authority on the subject, am going to rank each of these games on a tier list, starting with S tier being the highest, going down to A, B, C, D, and F tier being the lowest. Before we can get into it though, I've got to tell you about something pretty cool. Have you ever got butt naked, lathered yourself head to toe in peanut oil, and then launched belly first down the freeway, reaching speeds cars could only dream of? That's what it feels like to use Opera GX. You see, with Opera GX, every app is available right there on the sidebar, so you can respond to your Discord girlfriend while online shopping for whiskey and nails. You can also get notified if any Twitch streamers you follow go live, so if you follow me, you'll get a notification for my next hole digging stream right here. If you're like me, you value 2 things in this life: staring into the sun for extended periods of time just to see if you can take it, and customization. And with Opera GX's mod feature, customization is 1 click away. Browse their massive selection of available mods that change just about any damn thing you want, or even go on to make a mod yourself. With Opera GX mods, it only took 1 click to go from this default browser to this cat looking into a Ring doorbell camera, equipped with its own music, typing sounds, and the like. Switching over to a new browser may sound like a pain in the tailgate, but not with Opera GX's import feature. In just a couple of seconds, it'll take everything from your old browser over to your new one. It's also compatible with Chrome extensions, so you won't lose nothing. If you download this bad boy with my link, you'll see a little tab over in your GX corner that shows you all my latest uploads. See, notifications don't always like to show up for my videos, but with Opera GX, you'll never miss another one. Step up your game, son. Download the better browser at operagx.gg/bizlychannel. Now that link's at the top of the description for you, so go on down there and click that now. Right now. And thanks Opera for sponsoring this video. Okay, with that out of the way, please enjoy. We're gonna kick it off where it all began, at Assassin's Creed 1. I have to come right out and be honest, this game is just not that memorable for me. I mean, I remember playing it, but I was 7, so really it was just, oh my god, the world is blue, I'm wearing a white robe, I'm hiding in a crowd, and I'm running on a building and I stab a guy. And that's pretty much the extent of my enjoyment in the game. The story really just kind of went over my head at that time. And even now, playing it again for this video, I can't help but feel like the game was so slow and kind of boring, very repetitive. I will say though, to this day, Altair is an amazing protagonist. He's so quiet and scary and fits the role of an assassin perfectly. And not to mention the way that the present day set up all these different questions that needed to be answered. There was a little gerbil in my brain just running on that wheel looking for the cheese, baby. I think this game laid the foundation for something great to come, but the game itself really wasn't anything that special. Maybe for the time it was impressive, but playing it now, I wouldn't say that it holds up. There's 2 things that really stand out to me in this game as amazing. And that's 1, the setting. I love the setting. I love the area that you're exploring. I feel like the way all the buildings are set up is perfect for a game like this that encourages parkour. And I'm very glad that Assassin's Creed Mirage is going back to the Middle East. The second one being the social stuff. I mean, come on. The way that you can just lose your enemy in the crowd, hiding in plain sight. This is something that I wish the future games had expanded upon. It was present in future games, but me personally, when playing them, I didn't feel nearly as much of a push to use those mechanics. Assassin's Creed 1 just really doesn't hold up to this day, but it is the one that laid the foundation for the massive franchise to come. So I'm gonna give it a C tier. Assassin's Creed Altair's Chronicles. So this game was made by Gameloft, and Gameloft, this is a message for you, okay? I know you have Spider-Man Unlimited in there somewhere. I need you to re-release it. I never got the Venom skin, and I need it out. I need to finish what I started. I wasn't a DS kid, unfortunately. It was just never my thing, and the only experience I had with a Nintendo DS was taking a DS from my friend in 4th grade so I could send a picto chat to a girl that I liked saying, do you like me? Yes or no. I'm just honestly not going to have a ton of opinions about these games because it's just not my thing, right? And I think DS games do some things creatively. Like in this game specifically, there's like a touch pickpocket kind of puzzle thing that you can do. And I've always thought it was so funny how they have that mechanic for some games where you have to like blow into the microphone to make something happen. Playing this game now though, I was bored. I'm not gonna sit here and say I had fun with it. I'm sure I probably would have if I was younger and had played it then, but to be honest, this is nothing memorable for me. I was extremely bored throughout the entire thing. But while I personally had no fun with it, I will ask, what did you guys think? Any of you who had a DS growing up, did you enjoy this game? I don't know. I'm going to give it an F tier, though. I am. I'm gonna do it. But let me know if you think anything different. Assassin's Creed 2. What's up, baby girl? My name's Ezio Auditore. I called you from across the canal, and I really like your vibe. What are you doing? Stop it. Bad bit. Not a good bit. Go away. Assassin's Creed 2 is really good. Like, oh my God, it's so good. Even to this day, this game still holds up to this day. And I think that is in large part to the story. How everything plays out. Some moments feel like they could have used a little more attention, but overall, I think the revenge plot, the way it was set up, the way that you were made to be invested in Ezio's character was incredible. Not to mention the way that the modern day continues and builds off of the first one in a way that just feels like such a good payoff for what was set up. I'm gonna start off by talking about the story, okay? The game starts and you're not an assassin. You're just some kid running around his hometown, getting into fights with some other kids, and going to see your girlfriend. Most of the missions at the beginning of this game consist of you doing stuff like racing your older brother up a building, or going and chasing down these feathers for your little brother who wants to collect them, or beating up this guy named Duccio who cheated on your sister, right? It's little things that help you get attached to each of these characters. And you do something with the mom, I forgot about that. I think you go see Leonardo da Vinci, who's in the game, and he's awesome. You think he's my favorite character. But as the game continues, you start doing these missions for your dad and start to learn that there's something a little fishy going on. Or at least you definitely learn when your dad and 2 brothers are taken to prison, and you go and visit them, and your dad's like, go and see this guy. He's gonna help you out. And then you go and see that guy, and it turns out you go in the next day and they're getting hanged. They're gonna die. And it was the guy that you went to go see who betrayed him. Boom. Betrayal story. Revenge story. Set up. Awesome. I do feel like in what comes after, I didn't get to see enough of Ezio like reacting to his family dying, and I guess that maybe can be explained by him needing to step up and take care of his mother and his sister. But I guess I just would have liked to see a little bit more, but that's such a small nitpick. I think this was all great. And even better, the way that you become an assassin feels so natural, right? It feels like what a person would do in this scenario, right? If somebody comes to you and is like, this group is the reason your family is dead. This group wants to kill that group. You want to join up? That makes a lot of sense to me. It also just comes down to the fact that Ezio as a character is so likable, right? Whereas Altair has this like brooding, like scary kind of, I think he's gonna stab me personality. Ezio's so charming, right? Every girl he sees, he's smooth talking. Everybody he talks to, he's got this charisma about him that's like a magnet. It draws you to him as a protagonist, and I think it's one of the best protagonists in video games just because of how he's portrayed and the voice acting done by none other than Roger Craig Smith. No one could do it like you, baby. I loved this game as a kid. It's the one that absolutely got me hooked on the series, and I'm sure that's true for a lot of people. And I don't even think that's just because of the story. The gameplay at the time was so much fun. Even now I had fun, running around the different areas in this game. Sorry, side tangent. I love how the world is set up, where instead of being one big open world where you got to travel really far, it's just like specific cities that all feel unique. I love this so much. I think this was the best way to handle an open world at the time, and I think is better than how a lot of open worlds do it right now. I also completely forgot about this game's notoriety system, and while I think it has its flaws, like taking down a poster, I don't see how that would help you get lower notoriety, and also killing an official, I mean, I feel like killing an official would get you a lot more heat, but either way, it was a cool mechanic, and I definitely had to, at times make sure I was taking care of my notoriety, or on missions, I would just get caught instantly. As far as Assassin's Creed goes, this game was perfect. This is exactly what I want from the series, and I'm gonna give it an S tier. Assassin's Creed Bloodlines. This game is just more of Assassin's Creed 1, and honestly, it's pretty good for what it is, right? And I'm gonna say something that's gonna come off strangely. I, for some reason, like the jank of Assassin's Creed 1 better in these PSP style graphics. I don't know why. I think it just fits better. Maybe it's just because it's more of what I'm used to, or because it's a continuation of the story after Assassin's Creed 1. And I want more of that, obviously. I didn't even know this game existed, but I liked this one. I liked it a lot more than Chronicles at very least. It's a very short experience, and anything I have to say about this one, I've already kind of said in my Assassin's Creed 1 ranking, but I'd say this one, improves in little ways. Like, I guess it's just because it's shorter and feels more focused, but overall, it's nothing to really write home about. It still gets boring after a while, which is why I'm going to have to give it a C tier. Assassin's Creed Discovery. I think this is the last of the weird DS exclusive ports, and I gotta say, this trend went out with a sad whimper. This game sucked. I really didn't like it. Like I said, I'm sure there are people who really enjoyed these games. They're just not for me, right? I say all of these kind of like, handheld versions of the games are just not, anything super crazy. At least Bloodlines was just more of what I was used to. This stuff, it just wasn't it for me. I'm truly not the best person to rank this, so please, once again, rank these games in the comments. I'm gonna give it an F tier. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. The story here was still good, but in my opinion, less engaging than Assassin's Creed 2. Maybe it was just because it's the way it starts off feels a little more cheese than the way Assassin's Creed 2 starts off. It's how they justify why I got all this equipment and all this stuff in Assassin's Creed 2, and then just like that, it's all gone. They had to destroy everything. I was in bed with a lady. I'm telling you, Ezio got them moves, man. I don't know what it is. And then all of a sudden, I'm in Rome with nothing. I do like that the villa mechanics for, refurbishing buildings is transferred over into this in the way of the actual city that you're in. And then it's a little more focused on this city. I thought Rome was a good setting. I didn't like it as much as I liked the different cities in Assassin's Creed 2, but it was cool. It was a cool place to be, and I thought it definitely had a lot of character. I thought the outfit that Ezio wore throughout this game was a lot cooler. I know that's a silly thing to base a ranking off of, but I really care about what the Assassin's Creed robes look like. I just always have. I don't know why, and this one is the coolest, so that's going to affect the ranking. And it also by far had the best present day story in any Assassin's Creed. I feel like it's all downhill from here, and this point specifically is the peak. Can I be honest? All right, this is going to sound kind of strange, but my brother really liked Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. And it was one of those things where somebody else likes something so much that it almost kind of spoils it for you. Does that make any sense? Like it ruined it for me. I don't know how to explain this without sounding insane, but he was just so hype about it that when I played it, it felt overrated. I don't know if anybody else has ever experienced anything like this, but I think that's why this game didn't hit right for me. When I played it again for this video though, I had a lot of fun. It was just more Assassin's Creed 2 with better mechanics, right? Like I could call upon assassins. That was my favorite addition to this game, is that I could call the Brotherhood to come and kill targets for me, do things like that. I liked that a lot. One thing I really didn't like though was the fact that this guy, and I know Ezio killing him would have been a problem because of how the second game ended, but just the fact that he had been this antagonist from the first game over to the second game, and then he got killed by the new antagonist in a cutscene, that just felt so, I don't know, man. I was just kind of like, whatever at that point. The new antagonist was just kind of a crybaby who screams all the time. I didn't like him as much. I didn't like the first guy that much either, but he at least served a purpose, right? This is the guy who ordered the murder of Ezio's family, pretty much. Like he's the one who made them die, and he just got killed, like basically off screen. It was a cutscene. It's stupid. I don't know. I definitely enjoyed Assassin's Creed 2 more than I enjoyed this game for one reason or another, but it was still a very good game. And I think, you know, if you like Assassin's Creed 2, you're going to like this one just the same. I am, though, just for those couple of reasons, from my personal opinion, going to give it an A tier. Assassin's Creed Revelations. I got this game on motherfucking GameFly. You ever tried GameFly? I love GameFly, and I love this game. I think the idea of wrapping up Ezio and Altair's storyline in one game is amazing, and I think it could have been so good had they not padded it out with so much fluff, right? I think there's 4 hours in this game of really good stuff, and then a lot of just boring, repetitive stuff that I don't really care about. The only thing I care about from here is Yusuf. I love you, Yusuf. I hope nothing bad ever happens to you. Another thing that stood out to me from this game was the hook blade. And you know, love it or hate it, this thing made sense for Ezio to have, right? Because he's like getting older. He's like an old guy. He needs something to keep his edge. You know, how's he going to parkour up faster? Boom, hook blade. He's up there. And I think, like, I don't know, it's not the most functional gadget, but it's cool. It's cool. I liked it. And I liked being able to zip line across the buildings. I thought it was a fun way to get around, and I didn't feel like it hindered the rest of the gameplay too much. It didn't detract from anything. It just amplified the experience. I think this is the best gadget for an assassin to get to increase mobility and things like that. Now, later on, we'll talk about the worst one. The story towards the end, you know, really picked up, I think, and God, the moment where Ezio is talking directly to Desmond is so cool. Just the fact that he knows he's a messenger. Like, Ezio's a badass, but like, that's even cooler to just be like, yeah, I know what's up. You in the future who's watching me somehow? What's up, man? Ezio's always had game, but in this game, for some reason, that old boy got some real game. I'm talking about, like, he putting the moves on this lady. But oh no, somebody has come along and he's trying to flirt. It's Ducho from the Assassin's Creed 2. He just shows up again. I don't know why. I love this scene so much. It's just so funny. It just pops up there. I definitely think this game could have been a lot better than it was, but the good parts are really good. And frankly, I'm just so attached to the characters that I'm gonna like it anyway. I'm gonna give it a B tier. Assassin's Creed 3. How many fools can I kill today? Too many to count, don't get in my way. This game came out when I was around 12 years old. I remember it was specifically Halloween that I got the game, and I was so excited to come home and play it. But, you know, my friend wanted to go trick-or-treating or whatever, and so we had gone out and we were, you know, walking around the neighborhood. At some point, I guess he had forgot something at his house, and so he left to go back to his house. And I said, I'll wait right here for you, just come back. The second he walked away, though, I walked home. And I played Assassin's Creed 3 all night. And he kept texting me, where are you, Zach? I'm alone. Don't leave me alone right now. I'm alone and I'm walking and it's dark. And I didn't respond because I was in the frontier, baby. I was hunting deer. I was being Connor, and I was using a tomahawk often. Don't get me wrong, though. There are some things about this game that I really don't like. Specifically, the intro section with Haytham. Everybody talks about how much they like Haytham. I don't get it. He's annoying. He's boring. I did not like this section at all. Maybe it's because I was so hyped seeing all the trailers. I wanted to be Connor. I wanted to be running through the woods. I wanted to climb the trees. Haytham couldn't climb right, and I was bored with this, and I wish it had just jumped right into it like a lot of the other games. I think being in a snowy environment, for some reason, just like scratched an itch in my brain, right? Like in other games, you know, you're in a city, you're running around, you're assassinating people. You're very much traditional assassin. In this one, you know, you're Connor Kenway. You're in the snow, in the woods, climbing through the trees. The way that you can climb the trees in this game blew me away, right? I loved every second of this. And it just felt awesome, like this feeling like you're a hunter, unmatched. I do understand now why some of the story doesn't make a lot of sense. When I was younger, I didn't even really notice. I just thought it was a cool game. But now looking back, there's just some moments in the story where you have to wonder, like, Why did a lot of these things happen? I think people who dislike Connor as a protagonist, it makes sense, right? He's not charismatic like Ezio. He's just a different kind of character. And maybe you don't prefer that kind of character. I think he's flawed in a lot of ways, but I think he's written okay, at least for who he is. I think it all fits. I think it being another revenge story is fine. That seems to be a very common theme with a lot of these games. It's like, oh my God, your family got killed and the person who did it is a Templar. And now you got to be an assassin and go kill them, right? It feels a little overdone. I think it was the setting and the gameplay that really hooked me, right? The way I could just run through the trees was so much fun. And it being set in the American Revolution was perfect. It made me interested in history, which was, I wasn't very interested in a lot of school subjects. This is one thing that actually stoked my interest in something like that. And I gotta say, the present day was fumbled. This is the reason why we got those stupid first-person missions. And I hate those first-person missions, but I don't blame that game. I blame Assassin's Creed 3 because you killed off the main guy. Why? Why did you do that? This just didn't make any sense to me. I don't know. I think that was a major, major fumble, and I hated every second of it. I wish I could just play this game without those sections and without the Hatham sections, right? Just give me the stuff that I like. Now, if I were ranking objectively, I'd probably give this a C tier. But given how much attachment to it I have, and the fact that the Smosh Assassin's Creed 3 rap has been stuck in my head for 11 years, I have to give this an A tier. Assassin's Creed Liberation. I never really had a PS Vita, but having played this now, I have one major takeaway. As a Florida man, the inclusion of swamps and gators, good stuff. I'll just get more positives out of the way as well. The inclusion of different disguises that you could use, like the lady or the slave. I thought these were incredible elements to add to the game, and I wish more games implemented stuff like this. Different outfits you could use. It's reminiscent of Hitman, right? And that's the ultimate social stealth game. So I think that was an incredible addition. Outside of that, the story was so boring up until the end, right? I loved some of the elements, how Evelyn was this like vigilante type figure. We've never seen an assassin who has a daily life and keeps that assassin life hidden. I think there's such untapped potential there. And I say untapped because this game just didn't delve deeper into those ideas. And it's probably because the studio had to have had less faith in this, right? Ubisoft couldn't have had faith in this, otherwise they wouldn't have put it on the stupid PS Vita. I think Evelyn deserved so much better because this game was just so boring, repetitive, and confusing for a lot of it. It didn't really pick up until the end, and at that point, I didn't care that much. As it stands, I'm gonna give this game a D tier. I feel like she needs another shot. Assassin's Creed Black Flag. So this one's the first Assassin's Creed game where you don't directly play as an assassin, and I think it's done pretty well here because you're still following the assassin storyline. A lot of people, when talking about this game, will say, it's a great game, but a bad Assassin's Creed game. And I couldn't disagree more because you're immediately wrapped up in this Assassins versus Templars plot. You're just not the one pushing it forward, which almost makes it better in my opinion, because I don't think every protagonist needs to be, I'm throwing my life away to be an assassin. Edward has his own motivations in the world and has just been kind of pulled into this conflict. It's very refreshing at this point in the series to see a protagonist whose entire family wasn't killed by the Templars, leading them on a revenge plot against them. And really just a guy who wants money. I don't know. Edward's awesome, right? He's probably on par with Ezio as far as charisma goes, just in his own way. I really think that's why a lot of people like this game, because Edward is one of the very few relatable and charismatic protagonists. I played this game for countless hours when I was younger, and there's a big number one reason why I did. And that's entirely due, you know what I'm gonna say, the naval combat, right? Just being able to explore the world on your pirate ship, being able to do things like go whaling or seek out treasure maps, even just attacking other ships and upgrading your ship while you explore the world. It's such an addictive gameplay formula. It's so funny to me how from a series built around being an assassin, we just randomly got the best pirate game to ever exist. I love the nods to all different pirates from history. I always like that in Assassin's Creed games where they just take a name and throw it in front of you and go, hey, you know this guy, you know Leonardo da Vinci, and I go, oh my God, I do. And I think what really resonated with me though was the fact that Edward starts off as just such a little loser and builds up over the story to have his own ship, to become like a legendary pirate. I think this game's two main strengths are Edward's characterization and the addicting open world. It's a weird side note, but I love that Edward has two swords. I don't know why. I just always thought it was so cool how he fights with two swords, and I definitely didn't steal that from my D&D campaign. This is one of those games where I played it as a kid a ton and I loved it. And playing it again for this video, I loved it still. I think it holds up to this day, which is why I'm going to give Assassin's Creed Black Flag an S tier. Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry. This one was actually a DLC for Black Flag, but I think it's worth its own little mention here because Adewale was just amazing as a character in Black Flag, and getting to play as him on his own journey was so fun. I know it didn't really add much to the gameplay formula. It was just more Assassin's Creed Black Flag, but that's something I'm all down for, right? It's a shorter experience, and I'm obviously not going to give it S tier because it's not as good as Black Flag because there's just less of it there. But the few things they did change, I like the machete. I think the new animations for Adewale with that machete are fun. And I thought Adewale's story, while short, was interesting to get through. The only thing I wish they hadn't done was switch up the open world. I wish they would have just plopped him right back in Assassin's Creed 4. Use the same map, throw a couple different things in there. It's not a full experience. It never set out to be a full experience. For what it is though, I loved it, and I'm gonna give it an A tier. Assassin's Creed Rogue. So I did not get an Xbox One right away. Okay, and Ubisoft did an interesting thing when dropping Assassin's Creed Unity. They wanted to utilize the hardware of the Xbox One as best they could, and putting the game on both Xbox One and 360 would mean they couldn't do that. And so they decided to release a separate game on like the same day for Xbox 360. Guess which one I got to play? I was watching Assassin's Creed Unity trailers every single day. I would watch footage on YouTube and stuff like that. All I wanted to do was play this goddamn game, but I couldn't. And so I played this. And honestly, I loved every second of it. I may be coping just a little bit, I get that, but this game was so much fun for me because seeing things flipped the other way around was extremely interesting. And you know, being able to play as a Templar, that beginning where it's like, go assassinate the assassin. In my mind, I'm like, oh my God, this is unreal. And it was, I mean, it was bait, but still, right? One criticism I've heard about this game a lot is that the assassins don't act like assassins and Templars don't act like Templars. And while I get that to a certain extent, you have to understand, and this might get confusing if you don't know the whole story, we get to see the Brotherhood run by Achilles, who was the mentor in Assassin's Creed 3. And this was around the time that his wife and his son had died. And so I imagine this is how someone who is broken inside might run a brotherhood. Just because your organization is built on good principles doesn't mean each little faction of it will abide by those principles and be the good guys, right? And I imagine the Brotherhood around this time was just not the good guys. I thought it was awesome to see a flawed version of the assassins and to watch it crumble instead of watch it get built up. I thought that was cool. And I thought Shay was cool. I thought Shay Patrick Cormac was an awesome character. And I think with a little more time and love, this game could have been an S tier game. The gameplay and everything else was really just, it was more Black Flag. But as I said before, I love the gameplay from Black Flag, so I was all down for more of it. And the story to me, well, yes, it kind of lacked in some departments, and some things didn't really make a ton of sense. Like, you know, what happened in Lisbon? Why did Achilles just like not talk to Shay? Why did Shay and Achilles not just talk about what happened? It just seemed like things escalated so quickly to get to that end point, right? They wrote, okay, this person's going to become a Templar and fight the assassins, and then wrote what needed to happen to get to that point. And I will say it was fun to fight assassins who use the tactics that you've been using for all of the games before this. I think that was an awesome addition. I wish we had saw more of that in the just gameplay throughout, but what we did see was great. I liked attacking the forts. I liked using the blowgun. I just liked this game, which is why I'm going to give it A B tier. Assassin's Creed Unity. I understand that this game came out in a broken state, and I understand the story has its flaws. I understand that its main character, Arno, borrows a lot from Ezio. This game is an S tier. This game is an S tier. Let me explain. I didn't play this game right when it came out, because as I said before, I didn't get an Xbox One right away. And so when I actually got to play it, it was all patched. I never saw the infamous facial glitch with just the eyeballs and the teeth and stuff. I never had those problems, and so I got to see it from a different perspective. And of course, I understand how it could rub you the wrong way, right? I have my own experiences with games where it just came out in a broken state and I couldn't get back into it. But for me, I got to experience the game as it was intended. And I think this is the peak of Assassin's Creed, and it's all downhill from here. The city was built perfectly for parkour, and the parkour was made in, while a more automated way, such a better way. There is a reason that there are videos on YouTube with millions of views of just watching people parkour in this game, because it looks awesome. The ability to parkour up and parkour down gave you so much more control on how to maneuver the world. And after I had played this game, it was so much harder to go back and play other games where I was just, if I wanted to parkour down, I had to jump off. I understand how Arno comes off as like an Ezio clone because, you know, some of that story to begin with happens in a similar way, but Arno is so much different from Ezio, at least in one specific detail. Ezio was pulling every day and night. He was pulling. Arno, he had one girl and he kept fumbling it. Continuous fumble. I love how this story starts off with the ending of Assassin's Creed Rogue, especially because I enjoyed Rogue, right? And I played through the ending and I was like, oh my God, I'm so ready to play Assassin's Creed Unity. And then I did, and it was awesome because they intertwine. And yes, it follows a similar revenge story, but it's so much more complicated than just that. You get accused for a murder you didn't commit. You become an assassin in prison. And there's this whole Romeo and Juliet, she's a Templar, you're an assassin storyline that's just, while it has its flaws, it's pretty good. France is such a beautiful city. The crowd density here is unmatched. Like, you just running through a crowd, there's never been a better time for social stealth because there's people everywhere to blend in with. And the lighting is unparalleled. I'm serious. This game and Arkham Knight both have just this peak level of graphics that has not been topped since, in my opinion, outside of a couple different games. But these ones stand out so well. Some people don't like that Unity uses baked-in lighting, but it just looks good. Are you kidding me? Look at this game. It's beautiful. Just a side note as well, there's a moment in the game where you get to play in World War II, and that was awesome. We need a World War II Assassin's Creed game. I'm so serious about this. I've played through Assassin's Creed Unity multiple times, and each time, I've loved it. It has been my perfect Assassin's Creed game, and I'm kind of sad that it didn't continue on this path, and I do blame the rocky launch, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. I can still appreciate this game. Like I said before, Assassin's Creed Unity is S tier. Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Remember when I said we would talk about the worst traversal gadget a little bit later? It's later. The grapple gun sucks so bad. London in this era was such an amazing pick, and I wish I got to explore it in the way that I had explored all the Assassin's Creeds before it. But no, I just kind of zipped across and watched an animation of someone exploring it. At some point throughout Assassin's Creed Syndicate, you're given a grapple gun, and it completely neuters parkour. I know you can play through the game without it, but I don't feel like I should have to ignore the main traversal mechanic introduced in this game just to enjoy it. And I don't think this was a bad idea necessarily. The execution was just extremely poor. I think the grapple gun could have worked in situations like descending down something fast or shooting it up and climbing your way up. But this is like an electronically powered grapple gun where you can, shoot a line all the way up to a building and propel yourself upwards. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Or, shoot it up a building and fly up it. If it was implemented without a motor that took you there, this would have been a great addition. But unfortunately, it just it was overkill. And that paired with the carts that you can drive in this game, I never parkoured in this game, and that's my favorite part of the game. I have tried to play through the game without grappling, and it really just feels like the city isn't as built for it. I ended up having to run on the ground a lot more, which I guess is fine. It kind of ruined it a little bit for me. And another thing that ruined it was the story. It was such a cookie cutter, boring assassin story that I did not enjoy at all. And Evie was an awesome assassin. I liked her. I liked her abilities. I didn't like that she could go invisible. I thought that was kind of stupid. But Jacob, I really hated Jacob. I did not like him as a protagonist at all. And I wish he was just gone. He's just a gang leader who wears a hood sometimes. And I don't have an interest in building a separate organization outside of the assassins. I'm already in an organization. Let me just do that. In Black Flag, you weren't an assassin, but you got these hints at this cool Assassins versus Templar plot. And in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, you are an assassin, but who cares if I can make a gang and fight another gang and everybody wears green? The combat is not fun in any way. I love the combat in Assassin's Creed Unity because it felt challenging, it felt customizable, and it was so fun. It's a nitpick, but I really don't like how you put on the hat when you stand up and put on the hood when you crouch. It's just, let me just toggle it. While Syndicate itself came off as a little bit of a disappointment to me, what wasn't a disappointment was this crazy ass DLC. Are you kidding me? Jack the Ripper DLC for Assassin's Creed Syndicate is worth the purchase of the game alone because it is so crazy. The way you get to experience these characters later on in life is pretty cool, but getting to play as Jack the Ripper and, be this like menacing freak and do attacks that just like, there's fear mechanics in the game, and that is absolutely what I was looking for. I won't even say too much about it or spoil it because odds are you haven't played this. I highly recommend you play it. Assassin's Creed Syndicate, though, for me, is going to have to get an unfortunate D tier. Assassin's Creed Chronicles. I'm gonna lump all of these together into one because I have the same ranking for pretty much all of them. The standout is Assassin's Creed China and Russia and India. I mean, they just felt a little more lackluster in my opinion. A big thing I have to mention before I get into it, this game was apparently made by the same people who made the Ghost Rider game for PS2. You ever play this Ghost Rider game? It's S tier. Play this Ghost Rider game. All right, Assassin's Creed Chronicles. This game was, 2.5D Assassin's Creed experience that was different from what everybody else is used to. It kind of reminds me of those DS games, but actually made well. I think the mechanics here are more interesting than what was going on there, but it's still, nothing crazy. A big standout for me were the graphics. I loved specifically how Russia looked because it was built to look around like the propaganda from the time it's set in, and like the sky is that, Russia colors. Assassin's Creed China, while it had the better story and it had the better, gameplay setup, I liked the missions the most out of all these. Realistically, it just looked not great. It looked very muddy. It wasn't super interesting to watch. I will say this, playing Assassin's Creed India made me want an actual like full-on 3D game set in India. Why do we not have this already? I feel like it would be the perfect place to like parkour and do all. I just think that would be such a fun game. Ubisoft, get on this. Let's see. I liked the vision cones and such. I liked the emphasis on stealth. I really think this game, the only reason I'm not super attached to it is because it's very much and very obviously it's taking inspiration from Mark of the Ninja, which is genuinely an S tier game. Wonderful stealth game. I would recommend you go try Mark of the Ninja. This is like a cheaper clone to Mark of the Ninja. And if you like Assassin's Creed and you just want to hear more stories from this world, I'd recommend it. But it's nothing super great to play. And so I'm going to give it like middle of the road C tier. Assassin's Creed Identity. Can I be completely, fully honest with you? I was not that interested in this game, and so I did not play that much of it. To fulfill the obligations of the title, I did play some of it, and I'm gonna rank it based on that little bit, but realistically, this just wasn't for me. I get why there's this push for mobile games, because it's such a crazy profitable industry. The most downloaded Fallout game was Fallout Shelters. It's because everybody has a phone, but I'm the kind of guy who can lose my phone for 3 days and not really worry about it. So this wasn't for me. I'm going to give it an F tier. If you actually have an opinion on this, leave it in the comments. Assassin's Creed Origins. Oh yes, the first in the trilogy of Witcher clones. I gotta get this out of the way. The Witcher 3 is an S-tier game. None of these games are on the level of The Witcher, and I feel like that needs to be established before I go into the ranking. I'm gonna say this, I was sad to see the old style of Assassin's Creed games die and go away, but I liked this game enough to put 117 hours into it just on PC alone, and then some on my PS5. Bayek's an awesome protagonist who I loved playing as. I loved the voice acting for him. I loved the deep level of customization you had for him. You could toggle the hood, you could toggle the beard, the hair, things like that. I loved it. My favorite part of the game, though, was absolutely the world. Are you kidding? Running through the desert on a camelback was incredible. You know, seeing desert mirages was just such a fun experience, and the best part of it all was exploring the tombs with the torch out. I don't know why I loved having the torch and just walking around creeping through a tomb slowly. Maybe it just satisfied that like explorer itch I had in my brain, but it was so fun and it just looks cool. The parkour here was a clear downgrade from the games before it, and I understand why they did it, right? Because to get around the world, you need to be able to climb other stuff. So they pretty much made it where you can climb anything. And I like the challenge of finding a way up a building. It works better in this setting, you know, the way it's set up now. But to me, this is a downgrade. I also really hate the leveling system here. I don't like that you can't assassinate everybody. It's an Assassin's Creed. I want to be able to assassinate everybody. I just don't like when games incentivize you to go and explore the world by level capping the main missions and making you go do other stuff. I should explore because I want to, not because I have to. I also really despise spongy enemies. I just don't think it's a good addition to any game. If you want combat to be more challenging, make the enemies more skilled. Don't just give them more health. I love going around and clearing out the camps and going through the main missions. I also loved, you know, the little side story stuff. I don't like that they make me do it, like I said before, but I did enjoy the world and exploring it and meeting its people. While I'm sad that old Assassin's Creed had to die for this to live, I'm still happy with what's here, and I enjoyed it, which is why I'm going to give it an A tier. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. This is a game that I really tried to enjoy when it came out. It just couldn't hook me. I played as Alexios, and I understand that, you know, among everybody, the general consensus is Cassandra is the protagonist, right? But I played as Alexios, and his voice acting sucks. I think the character is written badly. I did not enjoy playing as him. He was not a good protagonist in my mind. The best way I can think to explain why Alexios didn't really work for me was because it, you know, at least for the first good bit of the game, it seemed like while he was in the world, he was not a part of the world. Whereas Bayek felt like, you know, people knew him. He was the Magi. He was this big important figure, at least in his community. And Alexios had like that one guy who knew who he was, and that was really it for a good while. It really felt to me, at least for a good portion of the game, they just plopped a guy in there and said, go do some stuff you don't really care about. And being a fresh face in a new world would be fine if the world was interesting, but there was nothing in here for me. Maybe this just has to do with my interest level. I have no interest in the fantasy of existing around this time, and so it just didn't stick with me. The leveling system for this one was somehow even more brutal than Origins, and that really killed it for me. I'm talking, I have 70 hours in this game. When I was writing for this video, I couldn't think of anything to say about the game because there was nothing memorable in it for me. Although maybe 70 hours just isn't enough to experience these games anymore. Picking it back up again for this video, I have realized that maybe my thoughts so far on the game have been a little harsh because there is something to love here. It just didn't click with me right away, and what I think I'm going to do is go into the DLC. I haven't played this DLC. It looks stunning though, and I'm just going to try and experience it, completely throw all my other Assassin's Creed experience out the window and try to enjoy this one because I've heard amazing things about it and it looks cool. The gameplay itself is very similar to Assassin's Creed Origins, but this one specifically introduces for the first time in Assassin's Creed a branching narrative. You know, you're able to make decisions like an RPG, which I think was a great addition. You know, if you're going to make RPGs, make RPGs. For one reason or another, this game just didn't do it for me, and I'm going to give it a D tier. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. This game is hated by a lot of people, and At first, I really hated it too. You know, the beginning is so slow. I hated playing as Eivor in the beginning, you know, the kid Eivor stuff, and the wolf kiss stuff seemed so stupid. I didn't like a lot of the, you know, myth stuff in Odyssey, and I definitely wasn't going to like it here. But I gave this game a lot of chances, and every time I did, I liked it a little bit more. I've been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla for over a year. Like, just little bits at a time, taking bites at it, you know, every now and again. And I've enjoyed it. It has a lot of the same flaws as Odyssey, but at least Eivor feels planted in this world. And, you know, the whole story of you going from Norway to England, you know, exploring this new world was so much fun because now Eivor is getting to explore this new land along with you. And he's not going alone, he's bringing, like, all of his people. So all these relationships with NPCs and all this culture from Norway gets brought over into this new world. And the whole premise of the game is just going to different cities in England and forming alliances. And obviously getting into some shenanigans along the way. But the game is broken up into these different chapters. I don't like the level scaling in this game. I didn't like it in any of the other games. But it is the best implementation of it, in my opinion, because there are these clear districts that you're going to, and you stab the knife and you pledge to it and you go there. As far as a stealth assassin fantasy goes, I mean, that's out the window. Stealth in this game is like non-existent, but a Viking fantasy, which is something I do have interest in. Ooh, it's awesome. It's like the perfect Viking game. You get to go on a warship down a river and just pillage and raid, and it's awesome. You can take out a torch and just start setting stuff on fire. Also, I'm pretty sure Eivor just stole his brother's wife in this game because I just kept clicking the dialogue options to see what would happen. And now they're together and his brother just doesn't even know. I'm still waiting on that to happen. I haven't beat the game yet, and I don't know if I ever will because there's just so much content. This is an overwhelming amount of content, which I don't think is good for someone like me who enjoys a tighter, shorter experience, which is why I'm looking forward to Mirage. But, being able to just experience it in bites, the way it's presented in the game is the best possible way you could give me that much game. I feel like I can go to one city, experience that specific plot line, and it's almost like I've played an entire little game right there, and I'm done. Not to mention, this one gives Assassin's Creed Unity a run for its money. I still think Unity looks prettier and more stylized, but this one, just, putting that hood back on in the cloak around and just walking around, it looks amazing. And people say this game is dark and dreary. It is where, in an area that's dark and dreary, but if you go to a beautiful place, it looks vibrant and colorful and alive. Eivor is not my favorite protagonist by any means, but much better than Alexios in the way that he fits into the world he's in and the role he's in. I know exactly who Eivor is. Perhaps Assassin's Creed Valhalla just scratched a particular itch in my brain for a Viking fantasy, and I'm okay with that. I'm not going to apologize for liking something just because other people don't like it. And I'm going to unapologetically give Assassin's Creed Valhalla, wait for it, an A tier. And that was my ranking of all the Assassin's Creed games. Let me know down in the comments if you had any different opinions, and maybe we can talk about it. And after you're done with that, click on this card right here where I ranked all the Batman games. There's a ton of them, so go ahead and click on it. Thanks again to Opera GX for sponsoring the video. This is my first sponsor I've ever done on any video, and I'm so excited to work with them. I use the browser all the time, and I really love it. Also, thank you for 69,420 subs. That's awesome. Just go ahead, click the card. Goodbye.